And I would like to just introduce myself and then take a moment to introduce everyone here. I'm Evan Coots. I'm a reporter for the Great Lakes Beacon. We report on issues across the state. And today we're going to be talking about the Fiat Chrysler MAC assembly plant in Detroit. We're here with State Senator Stephanie Cheng. And we are also going to be speaking with Leonard from the Great Lakes Environmental Law Center, Gregg Newsome from Detroit People's Platform, and we have here with us U.S. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. Thank you for joining us. We also have a Detroit resident, Robert Shobe, who is directly affected by some of the issues going on here at the plant in Detroit. If we could actually have folks just go ahead and say something really quick about themselves and the work that they're doing, but then we'll go ahead and move into speaking with Congresswoman Tlaib and State Senator Stephanie Cheng. So let's go ahead and start with Gregg. Why don't you tell us really quickly about what you do here before we move into speaking with our elected representatives?
Sure, thank you. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share and to get more eyes on this. My name is Gregg Newsome. I work with the Detroit People's Platform, but I also am a resident in the impact area of the FCA project. So me and my family that we've been living in the neighborhood since 2014 have been very active in attempting to get better protections, environmental protections, and economic benefits to the people who live around the plant. So appreciate the opportunity again. Check and thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. And Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, could you please introduce yourself and then also just talk about your recent, most recent, I guess, statements about this issue, and then also just sort of your relationship to this topic.
Well, thank you so much. I'm Congresswoman Rasheed Sleep. I represent the 13th Congressional District, which involves some of the impact neighborhoods. Many of the residents I'm working with are literally in between two congressional districts, but one of the things that draws me to this important issue is the fact I grew up in a community where pollution was chosen in the name of jobs. I saw Marathon oil refinery expand. I saw, many of you might be too young to know, the soap factory and some of these other industries that were 4 blocks north of where I was growing up in Southwest Detroit. And so I think it's really important for many of us who have institutional knowledge about this, gaslighting that jobs are enough. And some of that is even misleading, but I think it's very clear to many of us that have seen our neighborhoods change in the name of development, see more pollution, more asthma, more respiratory issues, more cancer, much of which cannot be fixed with jobs. So I think it's really important that we, continue to push forward, because many of the communities and neighborhoods will stay on, but the people that are elected, including myself and Senator Chang, may not be there. So it's really important that the community and neighborhood have some sort of legal standing and some sort of, say or seat at the table as they demand to make sure that they have clean air.
Thank you for sharing. State Senator Stephanie Cheng, could you please share your relationship to this issue as well, and just talk about some of the things that have been concerning to you regarding this plant?
Sure, and thanks for having me on. I'm Stephanie Cheng. I'm the state senator for District 1, which includes a large portion of the east side of Detroit and other parts of Detroit as well, obviously, and downriver. And, I live on the east side. I don't live that close to FCA, but it is definitely, in the nearby area. And I think this issue is important to me and our residents for a number of reasons. I think one of the things that's important to highlight is that there are significant taxpayer dollars that are going towards this expansion project. And so it's something that we should all be paying close attention to, because it's our money being put to work, and we need to make sure that we're being good stewards of that money. And, like the Congresswoman, I obviously am happy about new jobs, but I think that we have to take a close look at that and make sure that it's really benefiting people. And at the same time, we can't jeopardize people's health. This really is a public health issue when we talk about air pollution, both from the facility itself, but also looking at the many trucks that will be going to and from the plant, and that are already going to and from the plant. But with the expansion, we know that that is going to increase significantly. And we already know what the impact is on a number of residents who live so close. And so it is concerning. It's concerning that we have to think about these very basic things of quality of life and the noise and the vibration and just the ability to be able to have clean air to breathe. It's unfortunate that we have to continue to fight for these things, especially when our taxpayer dollars are involved. But I'm really grateful for all of the incredible organizing by a number of organizations, but especially just really the power of the residents who have been speaking up. I think it's just really incredible, and I'm hoping that we can just continue to work alongside them and get what the community deserves here.
Great, thank you for sharing. I just wanted to open it up to both you, Senator Chang, and Congresswoman Tlaib, to talk about the ways that you think that we need to move forward and engage with the community, especially community members who have not been engaged on this issue yet, and what kind of path forward should we cut? Do you believe that people should take to make sure that that the things that we need are addressed and delivered upon?
I know it took a lot of organizing in some of the impact areas just along where the new bridge is going to be in Delray. And that's my most recent experience of at least a successful pushback of putting our public health first before development. However, when I got there, they were already had been organizing for about 4 years, just attending hundreds of meetings by then. And by the time, I think it's close to thousands, literally, because there was a number of developers, Michigan Department of Transportation, the EPA, the US Coast Guard. There's so many folks impacted. After 8 years, they finally were able to organize an organization. And so in this case, we don't have that kind of time. But looking back and figuring out what was some of the most powerful moments, honestly, were some of the moments where we could really share the human impact. And what I mean by that is we were finding residents that had lived there for generations, from the grandmother to the daughter, who was saying, I'm raising my children here in this community. And, one of them currently has asthma. I can't imagine what I'm going to do when I have a low end job and I don't have access to healthcare. And you saw a turning point, because then it didn't become just about, a bridge to Canada, which is exciting to some people outside and in the media. You should have heard it. It was almost like as if the residents did not exist at that moment. And so I need all of us to really try our incredible best. And I'll tell you, that's where the powerful messages and stories. I believe there was one on Beniteau that said something really powerful, and I kept using it. I used it in my press release about the project. But we need to humanize what it means to take in dirty air, what it means to human life, to people, again, that never gave up on the city, and now they feel like the city is giving up on them. And so I think it's really important, and we've been doing our best. I know a lot of folks have really come through and showing, the anxiety, the fear, but also what the real human impact is. So I think we need to go a lot faster than, because we don't have a decade to really truly organize. But I know it is that going to be that one story or those two stories that then all of a sudden, when people think of the expansion of Fiat Chrysler, they're going to think of human beings, people, especially majority Black neighborhood, that is, again, saying we have a right to live, we have a right to breathe clean air. And so we need to really bring out those stories. And for many of our residents, to be honest, they don't think that it's important. They want to express their viewpoints and say, please care about us. But I think they don't realize if they just shared a little bit more of how much they've been struggling already. And now here we go. You have trucks, pollution coming out of this plant, lowering the property value, lowering the value of their life, and no one seems to care. And so I think it is important, again, to really put that amazing, incredible power of putting the human face to this issue.
Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. I just wanted to, I know you might have to leave in a few moments here. We're going to have a community Q&A, but while you're here with us, Congresswoman, I just wanted to offer an opportunity for Robert Shobe, who's with us here today from Beniteau. Robert, if there's anything you would like to ask the Congresswoman, I just want to kind of facilitate that opportunity here. If there was something you'd like to just mention, but we certainly will get back to you and your story in a moment here.
Okay, good morning. My name is Robert Shobe. I'm a longtime Beniteau resident. I've been living here 25 years. And a direct question I don't necessarily have, because everything that I've been saying and everything that you're saying, we're on the same page. And you guys have provided an avenue. That's what I thank Detroit People platform for giving us a way, because we were trying to talk, we weren't heard. I was fighting with a straw instead of a bat. And the thing is the only question I have as Congress, is there any pressures that you guys can bring against this corporation financially? I understand this is a local situation, but as far as making it national and letting other senators and stuff know, because there's supposed to be a movement towards people going on here now. We've got a new president will come in and all of that and all these things. So with all of these changes coming about, is there any way that the Congress could possibly step in and let Chrysler know it? For all corporations, but especially this what's going on here, because the way it was done is my biggest problem. And I know that's beyond a question, but they ran it over. I mean, they took a barrier out the day they told us they were going to build it. So therefore, when they decided to do their work, there were no trees between us and all that pounding. My house shook for 6 months, and then they want to give you $15,000 for damage. I know this is not a question, but I wanted to share a little bit with you. But the question is how can you highlight this on a national level or put pressure on this international corporation to treat the people in this little lonely city right?
Yeah, it's been a struggle not to try to elevate it, which I have been using the power of the letterhead, the power to issue press releases nationally, and then even joining on calls and really like clearing my schedule to be on some of the community meetings or what they would label as community outreach, where they're just talking at us. But one of the key things I struggle with, Robert, is every time I chime in or every time I push back, it becomes Tlaib versus FCA. And that's the headline versus the residents, a majority Black community. And I'm struggling with that. This is twice already where they personalize it. They do it with the Ambassador Bridge Company. They do it with Marathon, as if I have some sort of direct personal issue. It's personal for me because these are my residents. You all are who, I have to fight for. And so I'm really struggling. And I appreciate that we're doing this because I feel like the media has not been fair. I'm not on these calls for 3 hours with the planning department for pure joy. I'm on there because I'm making sure that they're telling the truth and not gaslight, like they give us a little bit of truth, or they label certain things incorrectly, or in their mind, well, it is the truth somewhat. But I think, we have to work together and try to figure out a good balance where it doesn't become me versus them. And again, I've seen it over and over again in the last 2 years on a number of other projects where I feel like that's how they dismiss it. It's like either you love or respect me as my work, and then you're like, oh, okay, you're listening. But in the other end, it's like, oh, it's just Rashida going off on, and again, I really truly ran not to be the first of anything. I ran because I cannot stand corporate bullies. I've seen what it did to our community. My dad died of cancer. I see what it means when they think that we're less than because we're poor or we're people of color, and it's devastating. And so we got to figure out a way how to use my office to elevate. And I got to tell you, Robert, you're going to see a cumulative impacts bill coming up. We have a number of efforts that we're going to be pushing forward on a federal level bill. it won't specifically be about this project, but we need to fix this nuance of like permission to pollute. As one of my residents, 48217 said, she's like, Rashida, this is permission to kill us. This is exactly what it is. Yeah, they filed the paperwork. They said this is the air pollution points. Well, the way that Fiat Chrysler was able to qualify for that permit was they were able to reduce pollution in Warren to be able to increase pollution in our community. And that is the story that never, I mean, that was the main point in the last call we had. More people spoke about air pollution. And then what did the media do? One of the media outlets, the headline was debate between Tlaib and Mr. Starworth from Fiat Chrysler. It was devastating. When I saw that, I was like, what can we do? We got to fix this. I told my communications team, like, this is devastating. When most people were asking them to insert filtration at the schools, I think Senator Chang was championing that. Or, someone was just saying, what are you going to do about the fact that even the home repair dollars is not going to save us from the air? We have to walk outside. We have, my city, we're known for the outdoor activity, and many of my community members come from the South. I mean, this is who we are. Our outside backyard, our outside is part of our home, and we don't stay inside. And so, Robert, I hear you. I mean, you know this. We used your quotes in our press release because it moved me when I heard you say, and I said, okay, it has to be able to move others to understand this importance. But I think it's really critical that, one of the things I said to my team is we got to do something to increase this focus on not whether or not I disagree with them on these. By the way, UAW, everybody called me after that whole debate. Because everybody had a say of what it was really about. And the point is, at the end, I said, my key thing was stop gaslighting us about the jobs and telling us it's about the jobs. And that isn't even right how the city is delivering that message. You know that. And then really the whole focus on that call was overwhelmingly about the air quality. And so I hear you, Robert, and I'm going to work extremely hard to try to find the right balance and work with all of you. Even if it's to help get op-eds placed by residents, me uplifting maybe in a press release, an actual just whole statement of residents tweets. That's why you all don't notice, but I stop and I say, go get resident quotes. I usually don't do that. I usually try to move it quickly, but I need this to stop where they're trying to use the fact that my national image, which is debate, people debate it, of how I approach these various issues and speak very boldly against corporate greed. I really want to work with all of you again to try to put that human face and uplift it, and not allow my mere presence sometimes to overshadow the work that you all are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there something that I guess I want to say, is there something that we haven't really addressed yet that we want to make sure we touch on? I feel like we've kind of hit a few of these issues about, the way that this facility is running, but just for our viewers who are maybe checking in right now, I just want to mention, we are talking about the Fiat Chrysler MAC assembly plant in Detroit. There have been several issues regarding this plant, from environmental pollution concerns to the fact that, they had promised that this plant would bring a lot of new jobs, but in fact, it was actually a lot of temp employees from other plants nearby that they, transferred and made full-time employees. There are issues regarding a community benefits package that was supposed to come along with the plant that apparently they've been dragging their feet on. So again, I just want to make sure that we open up, the opportunity to hit these different points that we want to talk to our viewers about. I know that Greg, you also mentioned to me before about the extreme public funding. And so, again, I'll just leave it back open to anyone here. We also have Leonard with us from the Great Lakes Environmental Law Center. Thank you, Nick. We will be opening this up to questions to our viewers.
Evan, I think it's really important if for just a minute, Senator Cheng can talk about the resident advocacy. And I think Nick does a really great job talking about just the level amount of air pollution that we're talking about here. This is not just, this is consistent, probably sometimes going to be 7 days a week, consistent air toxins output from this facility. So if that's okay, Evan, I think talking about
Yeah.
some of the resident petitions that the mayor and many others had ignored. No one ever really truly responded to that. I know Senator Chang was very successful in at least getting the state, I think they're called something Eagle now, but the environmental agency to push back and push more of Fiat Chrysler to address some of those issues. But I think it's important to know some of the successes and how we got there. But
Absolutely.
Nick is great at explaining just how critically important it is to understand the public health impact.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go ahead if Senator Chang and Nick, if you guys would like to tee off on that, go please.
Sure, I'll be super quick. I just, I think it's important to highlight that, when we were talking about school air filtration systems and air filtration for other, senior buildings, and I know there's adult well-being services, and when we're talking about other programs that we have been pushing, it's not out of just some random list of things. It's things that are evidence-based, and it's also things that residents want. Last fall, Detroit People's Platform, Eastside Community Network, my office, and Congresswoman Tlaib's office, and I feel like I'm forgetting someone, but we organized a petition where we got over 800 signatures, and so and primarily from residents right around the facility. And so when you talk, a truck study, making sure that we have a truck routing plan, I think that's really, really important. So we, these aren't just kind of like random ideas that people came up with. These are things that we know are effective, and they are things that overwhelmingly residents want. And so I just want to echo what Congresswoman Sleep said about, when you hear residents constantly talking about air quality and the company continually talking about their message around what, the jobs message that they're pushing, it's like people aren't really like talking. We're not really connecting. And I think that it's important that we highlight that, residents are asking for these things and are highlighting the need for these really important mitigations for the air pollution. So I just really want to highlight that, because I feel like that happens too often where, someone will say, oh, well, that's not really what residents want, when in fact, it is very much what residents have been asking for, and at this point for over a year. So I just think that some of the things that we're pushing are long overdue. Yes, I am very happy that Eagle last, or I forget when it was, I think it was last year, they did push back on Eagle's original plan and made them do a little bit more. Unfortunately, there's still more that we need for the residents. So we're gonna keep pushing and keep organizing.
Great. Thank you for sharing. If there's something that we would like to talk about with that, with regards to the work that is going to be heading into next year and our next legislative session, if there's anything like on the table that we're looking at for pushing any more grassroots or petition drive initiatives. And also I just want to open it back up to Nick. Feel free to mention anything that you would like regarding that as well.
Yeah, I mean, our role in sort of working on these types of issues is really to help other organizations and residents use our environmental laws to try to push for environmental justice. And so, the common threads, the common difficulties that we often see in our work, and they were present here with the FCA permit, are really two things. One is our air quality laws, both the federal and state level, do a really bad job of protecting low-income communities and communities of color that are often living closest to and most at risk from facilities like the FCA plant. And our environmental laws, in fact, allow for the situation that happened here, which Congresswoman Tlaib mentioned, which is there's a reduction in pollution at a Detroit facility, or there's a reduction in pollution at a Warren facility to offset the increase of pollution at a Detroit facility. That's legally fine under our Clean Air Act, and that's part of the problem, is that our Clean Air Act just doesn't really address the concerns that people like Robert are talking about. And the other common issue that we see is our state and local environmental regulators, still failing to toe the line for concerns regarding residents and sort of still prioritizing too much the things like jobs and things like making sure business can move along, and not doing enough to take a really close look at, well, how is this going to impact health, and what can we do with the legal tools that we have as state and local environmental regulators to rein that in and to make sure that we're protecting the residents, that are going to be impacted by this. I mean, I think that came through really clear with FCA in particular. I know, they issued a draft permit, and issued a final permit all in the same week. That process usually takes, at least a month. And so what that tells us is that their priority here was getting this deal done, making sure that Chrysler had their permits so they could move forward with their business operations, not we need to make sure that we're protecting the residents that are going to live close by. And so, that's really the two things that came out most for us when we were looking at this permit in particular, was our air quality laws and regulations don't do enough to address these issues, and our environmental regulators also aren't doing enough, even with the tools that they have, to protect people, like Robert and others in his community.
Right. Thanks for sharing, Nick. Gregg, is there anything that you would like to hit on off of that?
Yeah, I think just things that I'd like to, in addition to what Senator Chang was sharing around the organizing that's happened in the community, I definitely don't want to leave out or let it not be mentioned all of the organizing that the residents around the plant have been doing. I mean, this was it's almost been 2 years now since the plant was initially announced, and residents were extremely engaged in the community benefit process. They actually, flooded the room, and they had to do 2 nights kind of thing. So there was a very engaged community benefits process, and out of that, unfortunately, we did not get the protections that we're talking about, the things that we need that would make homes safe to live in and the air safer to breathe around the plant. And based on that, residents, particularly on Beniteau, have been meeting. I think that even with COVID, since the initial announcement, there's been 20 meetings of residents on Beniteau, thanks to Congresswoman Tlaib and Senator Chang. We've held a few press conferences on the street there. And there's been a very active response. We've been engaged in all of the Eagle public hearings. Of course, FCA have broken this up into different permits, right? So, there's other ideas about that and thresholds and whatnot, but they've broken this up. So we've had multiple chances to engage and to take this story to the people who are making these decisions and issue forth these demands, these concerns. And it's a process of going up to the plate and trying to share this stuff out and just not being heard at all levels. And I also want to make sure to mention that the Congress, I'm sorry, not the Congressman, the council member here have been very silent on this. They have not been hearing the residents, have not been responding. The Department of Neighborhoods from the mayor's administration have not been responsive. And we've taken it up, all the way here as far as attempting to address this and have not been heard. So I just don't want it to seem like, I just want to make sure to lift up that very important organizing work that's happening and will continue to happen until these things are made right.
Right. Thanks. We appreciate that, Gregg. Robert, is there anything that you would like to add to this conversation now? I just want to make sure that,
Well, I would like to, see, these are things that have been done already because this plan is here now. It's just like with Chrysler's plan to, we'll figure out really how bad the area is once we get online. How can you do that to somebody? Legally, I understand. I understand who I'm talking with, but that right there is a major issue for me. They finally decided to put some more monitoring air quality monitoring systems up closer to us. The first, there was 5 miles away. But something else I like to share, because see, I'm a resident around here and there's a lot to them putting this monstrosity behind me. First off, it looks like I live in a cul-de-sac now. I used to could go out my house 4 different ways. Now I only have 3, well, really 2. Um, but the next thing is like they gave this money, it was supposed to be for noise reduction. And there's noise over there now, nowhere near what it was before, but there's noise over there. They have a test track over there. They run race cars at night. I get noise 24/7 over here. I live directly behind. I'm less than 100 yards, or maybe a little more than 100 yards from the door to walk into that facility. I went to visit my brother yesterday. I know this may have nothing to do, and it does in another sense to me, because it's about our quality of life and different things. I went to visit my brother yesterday. I sat at a train track for 30 minutes. My brother lives 5 minutes away from me, maybe 4 miles. I can get there in 5-6 minutes. It took me 30 minutes plus to get there because of the train, Chrysler's train, held the street up for 25 minutes. You know, it impacts us in so many different ways. I mean, if I were to sit here and go through, I'm not a write down person. I'm going to speak from my heart and speak from what's true to my knowledge. I could sit here and tell you so many impactful things that this has done that has been disregarded and just said, okay, we've made them aware, and they just looked at us and told us, oh, well, this is what we're going to do. I told them before this ever jumped, those jobs weren't there. I used to be a UAW rep. I understand international agreements and I understand transfer rights and things of that nature, and there's no way they could promise them jobs from the beginning. I told the mayor that they've been lying to us and disregarding us from the beginning. I don't know what else to say. I'm hoping people understand that we have been disregarded, minimized to the point of basically jobs are more important than humans. You know, that's what it boils down to. And you're using our tax dollars to do it to us. I'm a taxpayer. I've been a homeowner for 25 years. And to be treated like this, I don't understand. And I hope anybody listening on Facebook understands what FCA and the city has done to us. And that's what I'd like to share for now.
Thanks, Robert. I am sorry that you are experiencing all of this, and many other residents. We appreciate, you sharing your story and speaking for many others who are, going through very similar things right now. I just want to, get back to Stephanie Cheng here. I understand that you're still with us. I appreciate you hanging out. If there's anything that you would like to mention along the way, just feel free to do so. If there is something that you would like to speak to our viewers about regarding, the sort of the legislative side of this, and maybe just do like a quick recap, maybe for folks who have just jumped in about just where we're at on sort of the conversation on trying to get some of these concerns listened to and addressed from our elected officials.
Sure. Well, I think, we're talking about FCA, we're talking about the East Side Plan, and I think just a couple of things to highlight. There is still an ongoing effort. This is sort of like a broader conversation, but this conversation about how do we spend our taxpayer dollars, especially during a pandemic, when we still need a lot of relief, and there's still an effort to try to push corporate tax incentives, when in my mind I think that we should be prioritizing relief for people, when people are can't afford their rent, and we still need to take care of people's water bills and just so much more. So I think that this is sort of like a much larger conversation, but it definitely, I think when you think about the FCA expansion, it's all very much related, given how much public taxpayer dollars went into this expansion. And so for me, one of the things that I always push with any type of corporate tax incentive, which I have consistently opposed in my time in the legislature so far, is environmental compliance and a good environmental record, as well as community benefits, because I think that we're obviously in Detroit, we do have the community benefits ordinance. I hope that it can be strengthened. And I'm sure that there's at least one person on this call who would probably love to talk more about that. But in addition to strengthening the community benefits ordinance in Detroit, I do think that at the state level, we should be doing something around state level requirements when public taxpayer dollars are involved, especially when we are talking about significant increase in air pollution. One thing that we haven't really talked about is that, FCA does talk quite a bit about how they have, pollution control technology and how it's, a very clean operation that they have there. And I appreciate that. I do. I actually really do appreciate that they are using, good equipment and say that they're going to, be the cleanest plant, but at the same time we have to continually push for more. That's part of our job, is to push for more and push for the best possible protections for our residents. So we just need to keep organizing. We got to push for a stronger community benefits ordinance. We should also push for, I think, additional community benefits at the state level. And I think, just Congresswoman Sleep sort of hinted at this, but looking at cumulative impact, I think that's something that we've talked about a lot at the state level and city level as well. And so what's great is that we do have champions at every single level of government on these issues. And so, and we've got amazing residents who are leading the way in terms of telling their story. So we've just got to keep pushing forward.
Great. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Senator. I just wanted to mention here quick to our audience that we have Denzel McCampbell, the Director of Communications for Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, just present with us in the conversation in case there are some questions that folks have for the Congresswoman. We can go ahead and address those, and we can get those moved up to her, and hopefully we have some follow-up. So again, we're talking about the Fiat Chrysler plant in Detroit, the Mack assembly plant. We're here with Nick Leonard from the Great Lakes Environmental Law Center, Gregg Newsome from Detroit People's Platform, and Robert Shobe from Beniteau, Detroit. So we will probably start to wrap this in just a moment, but I just wanted to, again, offer the opportunity to address anything that we don't think we've touched on yet. I know we've covered things from the environment to the employment that the plant was supposed to be offering to the area. If there's anything else that we would like to touch on now, just want to open it up to you guys. If there's anything, go ahead. If not, we'll just check if there's any questions from our audience. I don't know that we've had any questions yet, but if not, we can go ahead and wrap this up.
I would like to state that, considering this has been done already, and there are people who would like to have the option to be able to get out of here, or, even make their home safe for them to be here. If they're going to be here, at the very least, the home should be made safe. That's what I would like to state. So I think that they need to put more money into getting these houses safe for people to live in, for the pollution stuff, as well as the damage that was done through 6 months of power driving into the ground and shaking and vibrating the cracks in the plumbing and the walls and different things that have transpired from this project over here. And I'd like to make it clear that they need to bring some more options to the people, and not just something that you came up with. The city is trying to, since they negotiated, we understand with the CEO, but you negotiated this. We had no say. If you know how the NAS is designed, there's 9 members and there are 7 appointed. So we really had no say, and then the city council has the final say. And what needs to be done is the city won't hold them to the fire, so we got to get Chrysler to step up. The city as well, because they shouldn't have done what they've done. Now, how we go about this, I'm not positive, but I think we're heading in the right direction now by this form right here. But there needs to be more money put into making these homes safe and repairing the damages done from a year of construction.
Thanks, Robert. The only things that I'd kind of add some dollars into here a little bit and just kind of bring that into play. We're talking over $400 million in tax incentives here, and this is what we would refer to as extreme public funding, right? So, and some of that funding through the Brownfield Act actually includes tax capture, right? So, in addition to that money, there's a capture process for Fiat Chrysler to pay themselves back for this project, right? Which that tax capture process would come out of funding for schools. So there is this public funding piece of it that is extremely irritated by the environmental racism of the project. So it's like we're paying money, the state, and this is money from across the state of Michigan that's paying in here for this project that is disproportionately impacting Black residents in the city of Detroit. And like it's like we're paying for this for our own demise kind of piece, right? So our tax dollars are being used to hurt the citizens here, the residents here in the city. And so I just really want to lift that equation up, that extreme public funding and the environmental racism, and bring that into focus even more. And then the ways out of that would be, and want to make sure to express that we really need for Fiat Chrysler, since we're paying for this project, we really need Fiat Chrysler to use better equipment. If you look at the last permit, they're using refurbished equipment. They're kind of piecing this stuff together to get this up. My theory is that, they're talking about having the greenest plant the greenest plant ever made. But if the greenest plant ever made is still increasing pollution for the folks who are living next to it, what difference does that make? And is it the greenest plant inside or is it the greenest plant outside? There's so many questions about this. And so I just want to kind of emphasize that a little bit. COVID as well. So, we do have this Harvard study that came out that links PM 2.5 emissions to COVID vulnerability, right? And we're in a neighborhood that has some of the highest asthma rates in the state of Michigan. I could go on and on, but I just want to bring these things into the conversation, make sure that they get lifted up, and then just finally, this isn't radical thinking, right? This is just, any other community would want these same protections. The fact that, emissions were reduced in a predominantly white community and increased here, no one would want that to happen to them. And Fiat Chrysler, the city of Detroit, the state of Michigan, anybody who can do something about it needs to get in line and do something about it. I appreciate the opportunity to share. Really appreciate Robert and everybody who's been engaged in this. I think that's it for me. I'll check again.
Cool. Well, thank you, Greg. Really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing as well. Greg, if you would like, we can go ahead and mention Detroit People's Platform and the work that they're doing, if you would like.
Sure. And I don't want to take up too much space, but
yeah, sure, we can plug that. Yeah.
Detroit People's Platform, and this is one of the pieces. In addition to being a resident in the impact area, I work with Detroit People's Platform and have since they were founded in 2013, and we've been engaging around community benefits and corporate, extraction of funds from the public sphere, from the commons, since we've been around. But one of the things that we really focused on was this community benefits ordinance, and we ran a ballot initiative and were able to move forward a community benefits ordinance. But there was some ALEC play here from the mayor's office and the city council, where an alternative ordinance was ran against the people's ordinance. And of course, this more, we'll call it a corporate friendly or development friendly ordinance, was what was passed. And so we've been engaging in different community benefits processes since that loss, attempting to check that and attempting to engage with residents to attempt to get better community benefits that are not enshrined in the ordinance. At the same time, we're attempting to get the ordinance that exists on the books amended. So we're pushing for various things that would shift the makeup of the Neighborhood Advisory Council, which has been extremely problematic in the FCA process, into a more open Neighborhood Advisory Council. But Detroit People's Platform and the Equitable Detroit Coalition, which we're part of as well, have been engaging around these issues, with the Ford deal, with Herman Kiefer, with many of the projects that have been going on around the city. And I'll just mention briefly that, it is one of the biggest problems with the community benefits ordinance that we're really beginning to see, especially we're in December, they're doing all the annual wrap-ups for the community benefits processes. So they're doing the report outs on these projects. And there's just such great discrepancy in the way that these projects are handled and the way that the process is facilitated. We just watched the annual report for the Ford project in Corktown, and the treatment of the process, the residents, and the engagement was completely different than what we see on the east side of Detroit. Again, so we have this great disparity in the way that these things are rolled out. And, you know, my assumption is that it's based upon the players that are playing and who's at the table. So, you know, that's part of the work of Detroit People's Platform and the Equitable Detroit Coalition is around these community benefits. And that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of doubly engaged here and particularly passionate about this, is because we've witnessed the extraction of public wealth from the city of Detroit since bankruptcy and emergency management. I think we're over $1 billion in wealth extraction at this point to private, mostly white developers and corporations. And so it's just been this bleed. It's not a drip, it's a bleed of public funds that's facilitating a situation that is negative for the majority of the residents that live here, or for many of the residents that live here. Check.
Yep. And you know, it seems like even though that's the case, it takes so much effort to get people to notice and to act on and to do something about it and address these issues. But you know, we're glad to see that there are multiple coalitions of people in different organizations and from different expertise and backgrounds coming to work on trying to communicate this to the public. Nick, is there anything that you would like to add to this, or Senator Chang? Robert, again, I want to open up any final thoughts you guys maybe had before we go ahead and let you guys go and field one last time any questions from our audience.
My final thought is make our home safe to live in, or give us an avenue to get out of here to be in a safer environment.
The only thing I'll add is that, you know, we need our regulators at the state and local levels to prioritize these issues more, and, you know, both regulators and legislatures. And I know, you know, Senator Chang and Congresswoman Tlaib are doing that, but, you know, they can't do it on their own. They need more people with them. And likewise, we need people at, you know, our Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, and in our EPA that are going to prioritize these issues more and put health of residents at the front of their minds, at the front of their priorities, not, you know, the business of corporations and, you know, their right to pollute.
Thanks, Nick. Senator Chang, if you're with us still, is there anything you would like to say before we close out to our audience members?
Sure, I will just add, you know, that my thanks mostly just want to say that I'm grateful for all of the people on this call, and also to Great Lakes Beacon for doing this story, because I think it's really important that we have this kind of conversation, and I'm really looking forward to when we can get out of this pandemic and have a little bit more opportunity to talk in person. But, you know, I just think that these issues are really important, and I would agree with Nick that, you know, we do need more people to be engaged. What's great is that there are a ton of residents who are already engaged in this, but the more the better, because everyone's well-being and quality of life and health really matters.
Great. Thank you so much. If there are any last questions, we have just a moment left. If anyone would like, if there's anyone who is watching who would like to ask any of our guests here anything that's on your mind before we close here. Otherwise, again, you are here with Gregg Newsome from the Detroit People's Platform, Nick Leonard from Great Lakes Environmental Law Center, and Robert Shobe, a Detroit Beniteau resident. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate everyone for hanging out with us.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you all.
Thanks, Evan.
Okay. All right. We're going to let everyone go. So take care. Have a great winter holiday. And we'll hopefully be able to chat about this again soon.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, everyone.